Next, let's talk about some more Future State. We're gonna start off with. I feel like there was something specific I want to talk about Future State, but it's not popping up in my notes. But anyway, we're gonna start off with
issue 2 of Dark Detective.
What up?
Issue 2 of Future Batman.
Let's start off with Aquaman because I read issue 1 of Aquaman. It's really good. So before I even get into what happens in the comic, there was this DC posted something on their Instagram about Aquaman #1, and in the comments somebody said something along the lines of they look like they're making every character black or something like that, and then someone said, he said, y'all making everyone black. This is exactly what they said. And then this dude on IG, who is his IG's Farm G80 said, no, just looks like everyone won't be white any longer. And that is the perfect explanation of what this newfound inclusion of a bunch of different races in Future State is. It's like they aren't making every character black. They're just, every character isn't going to be white anymore because just like in the real world where we exist, not every single person that exists is white. That's just a matter of fact.
Right.
So it's not that everyone's turning black, it's that they're finally adding a proper amount of representation within the comics. And to you, that looks wrong because you're used to seeing everybody being white. But anyway, Aquaman #1 was dope. It takes place further back than Justice League. Well, most of these comics outside of Justice League takes place further back than Justice League. Because Andy is a teenager. And Jackson Hyde Calder is Aquaman. Arthur Curry went back to being King of Atlantis, and he made Jackson Aquaman. And he calls Andy Aqualad because he used to be Aqualad. And then she gets mad at him and just like, why don't you just call me Wonder Woman? And I'm Aquawoman. And he's just like, I don't care. I was Aqualad, so you're going to be Aqualad. That's how this dynamic works between Aquaman and his sidekicks. You're Aqualad until you're a grown woman. And essentially, there's like a 6-year time skip. I think it's 4, where basically they get transported to this dimension that's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a spirit dimension of the ocean or something like that. And I don't think it's the blue. It's something similar to it though. And he basically gets split up from Andy. And it's been like 4 years, and he was like in prison, and he was basically so distraught that he essentially restrained his strength because he was like being held by chains that shouldn't be able to hold him. And then he realized, oh, wait a minute, I can break out of these. And then he just broke out and escaped because he realized that he thought she died, but she was alive. So he regained the strength to break out. And the art by Daniel Cepera and the coloring by Adriano Lucas looks phenomenal. I feel like this Wonder Woman Justice League are my favorite ones so far. I like Jackson as just a character in general. I really like him. For anybody who doesn't know, he was created for Young Justice and then eventually became a character in the comics, much like how Harley Quinn was created for Batman in the series and then became a character in the comics. He's a dope character. Watch Young Justice. Season 2 and 3 are a little weird, but
there hasn't been a good Young Justice. I stand by the fact there hasn't been a good Young Justice season since Young Justice season 1.
I don't think any of them are bad. They just aren't as good as the first season by any means. Hopefully the first season is better because me and you both talk about how they have the problem of introducing too many characters, and I feel like
my biggest problem with
Justice League Unlimited is much better, where they introduced a bunch of characters, but they managed to focus on certain characters while still having the original League members be present and be big parts of the story, and then not feeling overwhelming. And how you don't get introduced to the other characters and they just are off in the background and you know nothing about them, like they do in Young Justice all the time.
Yeah, my biggest problems with Young Justice come from, and you know this, we might have talked about this on pod, I don't remember. My biggest problems with Young Justice come from, again, and I have definitely mentioned this on pod, DC loves using Tim Drake era stuff, but hates using Tim Drake for anything. Literally everything about season 1 of Young Justice could have been almost exactly the same had they used Tim Drake era characters. Tim Drake in the comics, Tim Drake, Connor Kent, and Bart, Robin, Superboy, and Impulse were the three founders of Young Justice. They were the three that started Young Justice as an organization. For some reason, DC shies so heavily away from Tim Drake in almost every regard. They'll use his team, but not use him. They'll use his costume for the Under the Red Hood, or not Under the Red, whatever the new Red Hood movie, you know what I'm talking about, like the Choose Your Own Adventure Red Hood movie. They'll use his costume, won't use Tim. They'll use his characters, won't use Tim. They hate him. And I don't understand why they hate him so much, but they'll use everything else about him, except for him. Like, come on, DC. Like, what? It costs zero. Well, it does cost money to make stuff, but like, it would cost $0 to replace those characters in Young Justice Season 1 with the actual Tim Drake era characters. Like, swap the Robin from Dick to Tim, and swap the Kid Flash from Wally to Bart, and you would basically have the original trio. Like, that's
for me. Oh, not along those lines, but going back to Aquaman, I want an Aquaman game. I think an Aquaman video game.
They made an Aquaman game.
You know what I mean. I want
it was garbage.
A good Aquaman game. And for DC, we talked about this before, for DC to realize, Batman isn't the only character you have, guys. You have a universe of characters to make stuff about. Make different video games. Please, make different video games. You're making a Suicide Squad video game, but that's only because the team got popular because of that horrible movie. Okay, you need to make games about other characters. You know,